to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our Monday, September 16th school board meeting. We will start with our agenda approval, deletions, additions. Dr. Baracco.
Thank you, Mrs. Seuss. You do have a couple of revisions under 7B1, some additional personnel recommendations. And under 7D1, Kelsey Bessich from the English department is here to help with the presentation on SAT data.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Kelly. And I will second that. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Is there any correspondence this evening, Ms. Kelly?
There is not, Mrs. Seuss.
All right, we'll go right into our liaison committee updates. Ms. Kelly.
I have nothing to report this week.
All right. Mrs. Talent?
Nothing to report. The redevelopment meeting will be this week.
Dr. Malco?
Is it on? Okay. Anyway, I'll talk really loud. Dyer Park, we need this next week. Legislative, I have nothing other than just, I encourage everybody to read and be up to date on what's going on, the various levels of education, including at the federal level, because there's changes coming down there also. Lake Central Education Foundation is moving forward, and some exciting news is coming out in the near future about some grants, but we won't let the cat out of the bag right yet. That's all. Thank you.
All right, and the only thing I have for my committee is Dollars for Scholars. Homecoming tickets go on sale this week, so get your homecoming tickets. And with that, we'll go to our official school board business topics consent agenda. Dr. Baracco.
Thank you again, Mrs. Seuss. Seek board approval for the minutes from our executive session and regular board meetings on Tuesday, September 3rd. Also seek board approval for the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures you received in your packets last week.
Move to approve.
Motion by Dr. Malco,
Second.
second by Mrs. Talent. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. There are no public comments regarding action items, so we'll move into our official school board business topics regular agenda. Dr. Baracco.
Thank you again. My first item is just to let the board know with our redistricting conversation, I do continue to get an occasional call from people, generally those west of 41 who are concerned about rumors that everybody west of 41 is going to be transferred from Coling to Bibbich. There isn't enough room at Bibbich to do that, or at Kaler. So I'll review the timeline really quickly just in case someone's tuning in tonight and hasn't heard this before. We will do a work session in November to talk about the methodology used to decide which neighborhoods would be moved. That would be in November with the plans to listen to any feedback we get, possibly make adjustments, and have a mid-January board action item to decide which neighborhoods get moved. I think it's important that since we started talking about this, it's important that I share that we're not going to imbalance our middle schools for the sake of moving neighborhoods. We're going to keep them as balanced as possible. And recent developments with Coling population dropping rather significantly means for those who dread the idea of their kids switching school, there'll probably be fewer neighborhoods than what we had initially thought. So we'll continue to analyze that data. We're waiting to officially run the map until after count day, October 1st. But there will be less movement than what we had thought earlier. Any questions from the board on that item? Okay, thank you. My second item tonight is just to share with the board and with our public that our Indiana School Safety Grant for the 24-25 school year came in at $81,000. We've been receiving the full $100,000 in previous years. $20,000 might not sound like much, but it's a significant amount given that we're spending near $450,000 a year on our SROs. Last week after we got that grant, I did fire off a letter to both Senators Durnall and Representative Slager asking them in this next 2-year budget to consider increasing the amount that they allow to be divided up for SROs. If you recall, in the past, you could use school safety grant money for a variety of things. In the not-too-recent past, they changed it to where you could only use the money for school resource officers, which is what we've been doing all along. I'm hoping that they can increase that number. I'm happy to report that Senator Durnall did respond to my email and said he'd like to sit down and talk about this and other things again in the near future. So we're hopeful to continue to educate folks. We do have more and more people asking for us to increase our police presence in our schools. And while we're not opposed to it, it's not a low price initiative. The last time we went from 2 to 5 was when we had our first referendum approved by the public. So to add an officer is around $90,000. So it's not something you can do with the snap of your finger, but I will just share with the public that we are contemplating the maneuver and what we need to do to add officers. Maybe not one to every building like some of our parents have asked, but just to increase by any amount gives us more exposure and more presence, and we do believe that's a great deterrent to anyone wanting to do anything bad to any student or staff member. Any questions from the board on that?
Dr. Bracco, I missed. Did you heard back from which legislator?
The senator responded via email.
Senator Durnell?
Correct.
And then, is it possible to add money to the referendum for funding? Can we take funding for SROs out of referendum money?
Yes, and we do, but most of that money, since about the 3rd year of our referendum, is spoken for. So we didn't spend every penny in the first year, and probably not even in the second year, but by year 3, we had allocated almost all of that revenue.
So that's the only thing I would add is the payments we make to the towns for the SROs, 100% of that money comes out of referendum money already. So to increase, if we want to keep that and add more officers, it may require additional funding. But as Dr. Veracco said, we're already operating at the margin for our referendum fund as is. So
So, can't do it right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Castaneda.
Thank you. For my first item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the personnel recommendations, the revised copy that you received this evening.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I did have a quick question. Were we able to fill that position at Kaler? The special ed?
We are planning on absorbing that with existing staff.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to retake that vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. For my second item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the professional leave request.
Motion to approve?
Motion from Ms. Kelly,
Seconded.
second by Mrs. Talent. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my last item, I just want to give a brief update on the high school diploma changes. You should have a sheet at your station, excuse me. And this is what was released at the August State Board of Education meeting, where it puts the current Core 40 diploma up against the revised, so the second draft of the new proposed diploma. They have not released the public comment feedback form yet. So I'm hesitant to push this out en masse until they do that because I'm a little nervous something could change. But I did want to speak about it with the board briefly. So on the one side in yellow, you see what the current Core 40 is. On the other side, you see this future new Indiana diploma, which is their second draft proposal. They did make a couple of tweaks to it. For example, under social studies now, they want 2 credits of world perspectives. So that is to address the fact that we felt that none of that was reflected in the social studies on the first draft. They have changed a couple things in science, but we still need a little bit of clarification. For example, it says 2 STEM-focused credits. We don't know exactly what that entails. Could hazard a guess based on our curriculum, but we would like a little bit more explanation of that. And you still see a lot of flexibility in just the basic diploma that they're proposing. Students have to take Algebra 1, for example, in math. And then they take a credit of personal finance and then 4 additional math credits. So there's flexibility for students to choose which classes they wish to take. On the back side, if you flip it over, they have proposed these new seals, which would be in addition to the regular diploma for either enrollment, employment, or enlistment and service. These seals are kind of their answer to the kickback about no longer having the academic honors diploma, which very much had a pathway for students to follow that mirrored a lot of the college entrance requirements. We talked about how Purdue, IU, and many of the universities and colleges throughout the state had said that they had problems with the initial draft, so this is their response to it. Under enrollment, it is very similar to what we had under academic honors diploma. For example, if you look there, they're having them do 4 world language and 6 social studies credits. It had been previously 6 to 8 credits in world languages, so they're kind of commingling social studies and world language because they feel that in the upper level world language courses in particular, they're talking a lot about cultures and geography and things like that. For math, under the enrollment honors seal, they do have it spelled out that it needs to be probably Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, which is the pathway that we've had in the past for students who were college-bound. Those additional 6 credits for science, having a C or higher with at least a B average is the same as what we had under academic honors. And then that last bullet under enrollment where it says complete one of the following, the 4 credits in AP courses is similar to what the academic honors had, but for example, they say and pass the corresponding AP exams. Previously, it said to take the AP exams. And that to me is a little problematic. I used to teach AP US History. That's one of the highest participation AP exams, but also one of the most challenging to pass because the content that you cover is so wide. So that has me, makes me pause a little bit. Under employment, they're mirroring some of the things that were in the technical honors diploma with that CTE coursework. They're adding in 100 hours of work-based learning, which sounds a little overwhelming, but they've said now that it can include any summer jobs, any after-school jobs that they have, as well as a work-based learning experience in school. They mentioned demonstrating communication, collaboration, and work ethic. I think we need a little more guidance there on what that entails. It could be taking a speech class. But it also could be other things, and so we need the state to clarify that. And then having them meet an attendance goal, but again, there's not a lot of explanation there. So these are the things that we need more clarification from the state on. They also still have that Honors Plus seal, and I spoke about that when we initially talked about the new diploma proposals. That's going to be very challenging for students to meet, though I'm sure we will have some that will do so. And so once the state says, yes, this is the final second draft, and here is the feedback form for the public to give feedback on, then I think we could talk about this a little more in depth, but I did just want to make you aware that this is what they've talked about in that second draft. Any questions?
And when are they proposing for this to be effective?
So they have to adopt it by the end of the calendar year, by the end of December. So if I had to look into a crystal ball, I would assume we'll get a little bit more detail, hopefully by October, because then they need to have a 30-day public comment period before they can finalize.
And then it would be effective the following school year?
It would be effective for the graduating class of 2029, so the incoming 8th graders next year. I'm sorry, the incoming freshmen next year, current 8th graders. Any other questions? The feedback we've gotten on this proposal is it's much better than the initial one, but there's still some things that we probably need to work through.
Well, some questions that need some clarification.
Yes, that would be nice.
Absolutely. Right. So are there changes going on, and I'm kind of changing gears in a little bit, but yet not really. Changes going on with the Indiana Online Academy? Are we making changes, adjusting what we offer?
So we've talked with the changes to the graduation requirements. If we need to utilize Indiana Online Academy as much as we do, that program in the summer alone costs us over $400,000.
I heard it was very expensive.
And so given that there's only 42 credits required on this new proposal to graduate, and that we offer all those experiences here, we also have our own in-house credit recovery program that they can take during the year. that we're in talks with the high school about paring back what students can take in Indiana Online Academy. And we'll get that out before scheduling takes place.
Okay. I had no idea Indiana Online Academy was that expensive. I thought back when it was, during its inception, that it was free of charge to the schools years ago.
No, we do put in for that with our summer school reimbursement. I just finished filling that out, but over the past couple of summers post-COVID, there have been more and more people offering summer school to try to fill that learning gap. And so where we used to get funded at about 90%, now it's around 60 to 70. So when
That's the big difference. When you were getting refunded 90+%, people didn't worry about the expenditure. Now that it's probably this year going to be in the 50s, and recently it's been in the upper 60s, now it starts to play a role.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And now our Director of Primary Education, Dr. Bracy.
Good evening. On Sunday, September 8th and Monday, September 9th, Dr. Veraco, Mrs. Cruz, and I had the privilege of attending the Administrators of Color Preparing for the Future conference hosted by the Indiana Association of Public School Superintendents. This was one of the best, if not the best, ever conference I have ever attended. The speakers were empowering and the audience seemed uplifted, but I'd like to share some of my key takeaways from the conference with you. First of all, it was started, Dr. Veraco allows his team to attend the regional superintendents meetings. And so last year, maybe like in April or May, we were in Crown Point and Dr. Shirley from the Lake Central Schools stood up and informed the room that they were preparing this conference and she asked for everyone's support. So when the email came out to the superintendents, Dr. Veraco made sure he had us go and support Dr. Shirley. And some of the quotes I took away from this conference, we were graced with the presence of some really dynamic speakers. Michael Bonner is from the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was the keynote speaker on Monday morning, and he gave an awesome, awesome presentation. But some of the things he said that I would like to share to encourage our leaders and even our teachers and anyone else in our district. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. And then he also reminded us that you cannot be what you cannot see. And then one thing he said that hit me was we suspend kids for the same things the adults in our buildings do. And I think that's a conversation we have to start having because if you think about it, it is very, very true. And then later on, I was in another session, and the speaker reminded us that the weakest form of leadership is when we start to blame others. And that's also a conversation that people don't like to have. So some of the types of staff members we were introduced to, there were 4 of them, but one of them I did not put on here because I didn't want to make this into a kind of a negative presentation. So I talked about 3 of them on here. I mentioned 3 of them. So one of them is the believer, and this person is like your motivated person, the go-getter, always full of energy, the problem solver, they take care of everyone, but you have to watch this person because they can easily get tired because they're taking care of everyone else. So you have to make sure you listen to their needs and you help them stay in this category because ultimately this is where you want your group to be. And then you have the tweeners who are, just like it sounds, they are the in-betweeners. And sometimes they don't know which way to go and they won't speak up during the staff meeting, or sometimes they'll wait until the staff meeting is over to express concerns to people who didn't run the staff meeting. And so to support them, you kind of try to help them work with the believers and then let them know they have a voice and that you would like for them to use that voice in an appropriate time during the staff meetings. And then we have the survivors. These are the ones who are either burnt out or who are burning out, and they don't have a lot of energy to keep pushing forward. And I want to stop right here and say that even though, we have those believers, we have those tweeners, we have these survivors, anyone in any category in our district or in any district can fall in any of these categories at any time, because we all experience burnout, we all experience exhaustion, we all experience being excited about something new. So just because you might not be in this category today, you could be in this category next month. So it's not about the teachers, it's about everyone. Everyone can fall in these categories. And so then I attended another session with a Dr. Milton, I'll have to look up his last name, I have it written down, I'm so sorry. And he talked about how we as transformational leaders, we are to support 6 different categories. And of course, we know the first things we have to focus on are our children and their families. And so he talked about ways to support them. And then our support staff. And so someone had kind of looked at him like, why is support staff ahead of the teachers? Not that they're ahead of the teachers, but he gave an example of, in his building when he was a principal, there was an electrical issue, and the district was going to have to come out of like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to have this paid for. And he was like the head custodian in the building, and no one even came to him to say, hey, can you help me? Do you know how we can fix this? So one day, the principal and the head custodian were in the building together, and the principal started to pour out to the head custodian about, I don't know where this money is going to come from. We have to get this fixed. It's not safe. And the head custodian said, all you have to do is so and so and so and so. And he said, why didn't you ever tell me that? And the head custodian said, you never asked me. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of our support staff and we don't leave them out. Also, he talked about how we support our classroom teachers, and then next we worry about our building level administrators, and then our central office administrators, and then our superintendent and school board members. He also talked about 6 traits of service leadership, because at the end of the day, we are all servants. And so the first one is humility, and I want to stress that we have to be humble, because pride is probably the #1 thing that will cause any leader to fail. He talked about making sure we have a purpose and we are willing to sacrifice, we are willing to be accountable, and that we are empowering and we are not afraid to allow others to empower us, and that we never be afraid to seek wise counsel. And then I just wanted to end with some positive encouragement for our superintendent and our administrators. Anyone who does something great to change the world will have opposition. So when you're doing something and you have a lot of people coming against you, just know to keep going, keep pushing forward, because you must be doing something right. Focus on the data and not the chatter. So when people are chattering all around you, focus on the goal, focus on what's in front of you, and you know what you're looking for in the end. We have to have a posture of growth, so get rid of your pride, and that goes back to that humility. And then to be an effective leader, we often have to go against the grain. Any questions?
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions before I go to my next item? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, for my next item, I have some exciting news. We are super excited to announce we will be hosting parent-teacher conferences at all K-4 schools on Tuesday, November 12th. Initially, this day had been planned for an early release day, but to make it easier for our families and staff, we've made this a full e-learning day for all K-4 students. Invitations are going out and parents are already signing up. Some of our teachers already have all their slots filled up, which is amazing. I would like to thank all of our administrators and staff who have worked to make this possible. This will be a truly, truly beneficial event for our students. And then I would like to also thank Sandy from the Adventure Club. She is going to provide childcare for us via the Adventure Club at Protzman on November 12th from 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. So once again, on Parent-Teacher Conference Day for grades K-4, this does not involve pre-K, and we know that secondary will still be in school that day. This is only for grades K-4. conferences will be held on Tuesday, November 12th, and the Adventure Club will provide service at Protzman from 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. Are there any questions?
Well, I'd like to commend you on getting this done, because it's something we really have missed over the years, and it's nice to see
Absolutely.
that brought back.
Right.
It would be nice if it was a little later in the school year perhaps, but this is a great beginning. So the way I understand this, K through 4 will not be in school that day.
Correct. They will have an e-learning day, so the teachers will post the assignments that morning, and they will work at their own pace throughout the day.
Perfect, thank you.
And the
You're welcome.
parents will meet from, I take it 6:30 to 6 p.m., that's the slot.
No, everybody works their regular schedule, so the first conference starts at 8:05, and they go all the way until 3:20.
3:20.
But of course, the teachers will have a lunch break, but it starts at 8:05.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? Okay, for my third item, I would like to seek your approval for the professional leave request in your packets.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Talent, and I will second that. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And I get excited when I can ask for your permission for field trip requests in your packets.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second,
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions or discussion?
do you know anything about the don't let the pigeon drive the bus?
I don't, but how interesting, right?
I know, I've not heard of that one. That sounds very interesting.
I have not either, but I will let you know.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And our Director of Secondary Education, Mrs. Schoeneman.
Thank you. For my first item, I'd like to welcome up to the podium Mrs. Val Gardner and Mrs. Kelsey Bessich. Val Gardner is the math department chair of the high school, as well as our high school math coach. Kelsey Bessich is our English department chair, and they will be presenting our spring 2024 SAT data.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, we want to thank you for letting us present tonight. And Dr. Bracy, you gave us a great lead-in. We're going to look at the data, and we're going to ignore the chatter. Okay, so here we go. Our first up is our math data. Some facts to know about the spring math SAT data is that a passing score for math on the SAT is a 530. And this shows that students are ready for college. It's a great score. They can get into most schools with a math score of that. 25.2% of Indiana students achieved this score. At Lake Central High School, 46.5% of our students achieved this score. And we are really, really proud of our students and our staff, because that's absolutely amazing. Okay. Also, too, we always kind of look at how do we compare to other schools, because I do feel like, Lake Central is a fabulous place to work. It's a fabulous place to send your kids to, so why is that? So right now, Lake Central is in the 96th percentile for our math SAT scores. And what that means is 96% of the districts scored lower than Lake Central. Out of the 365 districts that were on the Indiana Department of Education website, only 12 districts scored better than Lake Central. And honestly, there's probably half a dozen of those that are extremely small schools, or schools like, an Academy for Math and Science, but that is comparing Lake Central to every district in the state of Indiana.
So it compares private schools and public and...
They didn't have a lot of private schools
Charter
on there.
schools?
There were charter schools on there. They didn't have like a lot of the private schools. You'll see some of them on the list, and you can always Google that data for yourself also. So the next thing that we like to look at when we compare ourselves is how do we compare to our neighbors, which is in Lake and Porter County. And in our math scores, Lake Central was the second highest scoring school in all of Lake and Porter County.
Oh, really?
And this is the data from that. And we're coming for Munster, just letting you know. That's our first goal. And then we're going to go for Carmel after that. So Munster had a 54.7% passing rate. We had 46.5%. And then you can see the rest of the districts surrounding us. I feel many times we're very much compared to Valparaiso and Crown Point and Duneland. So we're and Hanover, because, you know, they're right next to us. So we are very proud of that passing rate. Some of the things that the math department and the English department is doing to help students prepare for that SAT is, first of all, during our PTE time, our Pathways to Excellence, we get them on Khan Academy. All of our teachers assign a few lessons, and that helps the students be aware of Khan Academy and what it can do. We are also, this year, this is something new, we're going to try to offer 6 review sessions. And what we intend to do is we're going to take our PSAT data for our juniors, and we're going to kind of target the students who have 480 to 520. And we're going to try to get them to come in and review a few math topics. We're going to open it up to everyone, anyone who wants to come, but we're going to particularly send out emails and some information to parents of those students, because we feel like if we can get that group, you know, we might be able to get that 46 up to a 50 or a 54 or 58 or something of that nature. Also, too, in class, Kelsey and I are working right now on, we're going to let them take a full-length practice test on their Blue Book app. And what's nice about this is that on the Blue Book app, when they get the results back, first of all, they get a true SAT score because it's under the same circumstances they would be taking the SAT. And then it hooks up with Khan Academy. So like in math, if they got question 4 wrong and it was about parabolas, they could click on it and it would take them to a video and maybe a few questions to answer. So we feel that's going to help us out too. And we did not do that last year, because last year was the first year for the Blue Book app and we didn't know all of its capabilities. Also, too, our teachers do a lot of bell ringers and review, and also, especially for math, at least, and I know Sarah was very involved in this, and Misty has continued on, using the material that we adopted and the technology that consistently aligns with College Board and the SAT, I think has been key for us. Because a lot of other math department chair people that I know, you know, their schools, they don't use a lot of those same materials. They don't focus on the technology piece, because now in math, it is calculator all day, every day, and it's that Desmos calculator, which is very powerful. And to not have your students do that is not a good thing. And so for us, we've really implemented that, and I think that's helped our scores out tremendously. Kelsey.
So like a lot of what Val's listed there, English is doing similar things. What we'll do is, after we see how the students do on their Blue Book practice test, we'll kind of target language that is proving difficult for them. We'll kind of adjust our assessments to match some of the issues that we're seeing there. Because a lot of our students, it might just be words that they're unfamiliar with, or certain directions, how they're worded, things like that, that cause them some difficulty. So for our English data, a passing score for English is a 480. 51.8% of Indiana students achieved this score, but 66.9% of Lake Central students achieved this score. So we're obviously thrilled to see us above the Indiana baseline. In terms of how we are comparing to other schools in Indiana, we're in the 90th percentile for the state. And then out of 365 districts, only 35 districts scored better than Lake Central did in the English portion of the SAT. In Lake and Porter County, we tied for 4th with our English scores. We're right there with Crown Point. Again, we're aiming for Munster too. I don't like to be anything other than first, so we're going to climb up there, and we'll get up there at some point. But again, we're really happy to see, you know, where we're at, and our students are really working hard to continue to do better.
So the last part of our presentation is we're going to talk a little bit about combined data. And what combined data means is that students passed both math and English. So in the 2024 administration, 24.1% of Indiana students achieved the benchmark score in both math and English. And 44% of Lake Central students reached this benchmark. And that was because both math and English had strong percentage passing. So we're thrilled with that. Once again, for combined SAT data, Lake Central is in the 96th percentile, and there are only 15 districts that scored better than Lake Central for the combined SAT data. And in Lake and Porter counties, once again, we were the second highest scoring school for combined data. And you can see there, once again, we need to be gunning for Munster, right? So they had 53.3, we were at 44%, and then everyone else, you can see the data on who was lower than that. So we are thrilled, but we always know there's more work to be done. And, I talk with Misty a lot, and we're going to keep pushing that envelope, because we want that score to go up even more.
And I would just like to go ahead, let's clap. Yes.
Thank you.
It's hard to sit quietly and listen. I feel like it should be like a football game, and I want to
Well, I was just going to say, I like that they're competitive.
Yes,
we are.
yes. Munster friends watching, thank you for the challenge. But these two, just with their leadership, their vision, their strategizing, I mean, it's the intentionality behind all of it, their knowledge of the SAT and Khan and Blue Book and all of the pieces. I can't say enough about your leadership. This is amazing, and I'm just thrilled for our students here.
We are too.
Yes. So how long have we had the Blue Book app? Is it fairly new?
Very.
Yeah, I think you all can correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is either only the second or third year we've had it, and it's only probably the second year that I've known that students can get on it and take a full-length practice test. And also, too, they did some kind of tweaks in it, and last year, you literally had to go straight through the test, so you would have to sit there for like 3 hours. And now they improved it a bit so you can pause it. So our intention is the first couple of weeks we're back after winter break, English is going to start because their test is first. And so all the juniors are going to take that in their classes, and then the following week the junior math students will take their section. So because we were going to try to work something out with PTE or a half a day, and now we don't have to do that. We can easily.
It's too overwhelming.
Right.
So all juniors take the SAT?
Yes.
Wow. That is great. You're doing a
It
great
is,
job,
and
yeah.
and that's everyone at Lake Central High School that takes it. So we're
great.
extremely proud of that number.
So if you would compare the results from the SAT to what's the other test we take, is it iLearn? I mean, what's more valuable to us?
So I think it's a testament to College Board that their test is more reliable, valid, and transparent, because if we had these types of tools with iLearn, I think there's so much more we could do to prepare our students to be successful. I echo what Misty said, though. With the leadership of Mrs. Gardner and Mrs. Bessich, we're in very good hands. They put so many wonderful pieces in place to make sure that our students are well prepared for this test.
Yeah, and it sounds like a toolkit, because you've got the strategies and the tools to help you with the reviews and everything. Now, with Khan Academy, I mean, I've heard about that forever and forever and forever, and I love it. I think it's great. I like to go on it myself, so. Yeah. Geometry, does anybody remember geometry and all that?
Try to forget.
I do.
I should talk to you, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Wow,
Yes,
that's
thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to rewatch that and not move on. But for my next item, I am seeking the board's approval for the professional leave requests that are included in your board packet.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Kelly. Any questions?
No, the only thing I ask is if, and I think I emailed this to you actually, can you let us know what is going on with IU and Purdue after they attend that
Absolutely.
conference down there? Because it's all rumor mill right now.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
All right, appreciate that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my second item, or my third item, I am seeking the board's approval for the field trip requests, also included in your packet.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malko, and I will second that. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And our Director of Student Services, Mrs. Gramala.
Thank you. My first item tonight is to give the board an update on our TAP program. A few meetings ago, we had a parent ask some questions at the end of the meeting, so I just wanted to share with the board about what's going on. So TAP is our Transition to Adulthood program, so it's our program for students who are 18 to 22 years old with students with disabilities. So in winter 2024, we began as an administrative team talking about the possibility of bringing TAP students back to Lake Central High School due to a number of concerns. One of the largest was safety. The TAP facility was an isolated building off of any other school campuses. There were no administrators on staff full-time. The building design was not great from a safety perspective. We also had 2 teachers on site, but those teachers, because they were in a standalone building, had many additional responsibilities that our building teachers do not have. So they were having to do things like handle student lunches, basic health care needs, a lot of payroll responsibilities, just things that teachers in other buildings don't have to do. We had concerns because we did not have any nursing staff on site. And the program was really started off-site when the high school was sort of bursting at the seams, and we didn't have room to create adequate programming here. So taking all of those things into consideration, we decided that it would be best to bring the students back here to Lake Central. So in March 2024, Mrs. Castaneda and I met along with Mary Reby, who's our assistant principal for student services here at the high school. We met with the high school administration, and then we met with the TAP teachers and our current high school parents and current TAP parents. So we had a meeting in the evening and informed parents that the program would be moving back here to the high school for all the reasons that I just outlined. And for the most part, we received really positive feedback. We actually had some parents who clapped in the meeting. So they shared some of the concerns that we had, and we're happy to hear that the students were coming back. So we started the year with TAP back here at Lake Central High School. And our main priority in all of this was to make sure we did not lose any of the key features of TAP that really made the program successful and made it a good experience for our students. So the program occupies 4 connected classrooms. So it's 4 classrooms with kind of like what would have been a teacher office area in the middle. So that setup gave them, allows for classroom space, room for practicing daily living skills, and leisure spaces. In addition to that, they have access to the cooking labs here at the high school, the gym facilities, a lot of those additional areas. Within their day, students have a variety of vocational activities right within the building. So they have a staff coffee cart in the morning that goes door to door from offices. They also take specialty coffee orders that they take and then deliver those in the afternoon for people who can have caffeine afternoon. I am not one of those people. They also deliver mail for the teachers. So to save our teachers a trip from way up on the 3rd floor to their mailbox, the students can deliver mail to the teachers. They also work in our laundry facilities, help with things like shredding and copying, regular office tasks during the day. We continue to have our job sites off campus as well, so the students continue to go into the community. According to the teachers, most students go out 4 days a week, and we do have students that aren't able to go out that many days due to their own individual needs. But and we have continue to have a variety of job sites. So we have retail sites like Alsip, grocery stores. We go to a couple different resale shops. We go to hotels, including the Comfort Inn, Hampton Inn, and Holiday Inn, where students learn housekeeping skills. We have students working at McDonald's. And then we also work with different community organizations. So our students do work at the Down Syndrome Association, Faith Church, Grace Lutheran Church, and they are working on adding the Northwest Indiana Food Bank as a job site. Additionally, we take recreational visits to the YMCA and the library. So students are getting a variety of community outings still. So we currently have 31 students, and serving those 31 students, we have 10 paraprofessionals and 2 teachers in the program. So it's a big change to have the students back. but it has been successful so far. And the only complaint I've heard from students is they have to get up earlier. When they were in their own building, they were following the middle school schedule, so they were starting a little bit later. And now they're back with our high school start and end time. So they were looking a little sleepy the first couple weeks of school, but I think they've all adjusted. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's been a successful move.
Now, I hear a lot about the Best Buddies. I don't know if this is on or not, but, so now that they're here, they going to participate in Best Buddies, or?
We are trying to have a line for our students between high school and TAP. So our TAP
Okay.
students have not traditionally participated in Best Buddies. That's a high school extracurricular. So we're trying to kind of keep those
Got it.
those activities separate. So our TAP students really do feel a difference.
Got it.
That they are no longer high school students. Certainly, if we had, a request, we'd work with that. And I've not heard of any requests for that so far.
Yeah, and I don't know what it would look like. I just happened to think about that. And the other thing that occurred to me is I love going to the choir programs and seeing students, the special needs students singing with the choir kids. It's really cool. So I know that you,
Yeah, many of our high school students participate in choir, theater,
Yeah.
as their electives.
it's pretty neat. So, thank you for doing that. That's extra work, I know.
Thank
But-
you. And then my only other item tonight is to seek your approval for the professional leave requests that were included in your packet.
We have a motion by Ms. Kelly,
Second.
second by Ms. Talent. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now our Director of Facilities, Mr. Ledyard.
Thank you. I have several items tonight for your approval and just a brief update on the projects. They're both pretty much at the same stage. The punch list at both projects are 95% complete. We've added a few extra things at Bibbage, which we're waiting on for some items. We're working on closeout documentation for both projects. The BMS contractor is working on some graphics for the systems at both projects. Other than that, I mean, everything's been pretty much a good transition for the start of school year at both sites, so it went very well. Any questions before I move on to the items for approval? All right, with that, I seek your approval to award and execute change order number 3 to Circle R Mechanical for the Bibbage Mechanical Project, bid package number 10A, the HVAC systems, in the amount of a deduct of $1,172. We did not install some radiant panels and some water piping in the existing bathroom, so we're getting a credit for that.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco. Second, Mrs. Kelly. Any questions?
He always does. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Veraco, I know you do.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 1 to Sweeney Electric Company for the Bibbage Mechanical Project, bid package 11A, electrical, in the amount of $4,300. $1,619 was to reinstall some wireless access panels after the construction was not in the scope of work. And we also had to install some breakers and some electric to keep the gym area conditioned, as well as the cafeteria, so we could do some work there in the summer. That it wasn't, the tiles, we wanted to put the ceiling tile in there early, and we didn't want them to be all buckled because of the high humidity and heat. So we did that, and that was $2,681 for a total of $4,300. I seek your approval on that item.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco. And I will second that. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 2 to Gulf Inc. for the Bibbage Building Project, bid package 7, drywall, mechanical studs, insulation, for the amount of $1,522. We did some additional painting of the existing bollards, as well as the art room walls after we installed some cabinets. That was not part of the original scope.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Talent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Motion.
Next is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 5 to Sweeney Electric for the Bibbage Building Project, bid package number 11, the amount of $1,491. We moved the Adventure Club. People are going into a different door now, so Miss Diane asked me if I could have a bill and buzzer there, so we did that for her in the cafeteria at door D, so that was an extra for $1,491.
Oh, that was nice.
Motion by Ms. Kelly,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is to award and execute change order number 7 to Larson Danielson Construction Company for the Bibbage Building Project, bid package 8, general trades. And this is to supply 30 additional 4x5 bulletin boards to put outside the existing classrooms. All the teachers love the new classroom bulletin boards, so I'm getting them for the existing classrooms as well, for the amount of $8,202.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco,
Second.
second by Ms. Talon.
That's very, very good. I'm sure they're enjoying that. Nice move, Mr. Ledyard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
My next item, Dr. Farraco will like this one, to award and execute change order number 2 to Tenco Excavating for the Bibbage Building Project, bid package 1, earthwork and site demo, a deduct of $9,877. This was an allowance we had in there for unsuitable soils, and we did not use as part of the closeout, part of the contract. We are getting that back, so that's a credit again of $9,877.
Ah,
Right.
so moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malco, and I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Last but not least, award and execute change order number 6 to Sweeney Electric for the Bibbage Building Project, bid package 11 electrical, for $9,980. This is 2 parts. This is $1,567 was the overtime. We worked 2 shifts. I know Mrs. Suze knows because she was on the committee, but we were not going to get our switch gear, and we finally did get it right before the 4th of July, and my guys worked double shifts on the 1st, the 2nd, and they worked a double shift on the 5th to get that done and just charged me premium time, which I greatly appreciate. And the next portion is $8,413. The old switch gear had a feed that fed the old 4th grade wing, and it fed the mechanical room and the library that was literally right in the middle of the receiving door after we did away with the old switch gear. So we relocated that to have a full open receiving area, and that was part of that $8,413. So again, the whole change order is for $9,980.
Motion by Ms. Kelly,
Second.
second by Ms. Talent. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, and just FYI, all that came out of our project contingency, which we had, so all those came out of the contingency.
No, thank you. And now our Director of Business Services, Mr. James.
Thank you. At our last board meeting, I gave the board and the public a presentation on our proposed 2025 budget, the capital projects plan, and the bus replacement plan. So the next part of that process is to give the public an opportunity via a public hearing to see if they have any comments that they'd like to share based on what was presented last week. Okay, hearing none, that concludes the public hearing. The final step of the process will be at our next regularly scheduled board meeting on October 7th, when we will have a variety of resolutions to pass, and that will conclude the budget adoption process. Then my second item is to seek your approval for the donations in your board packet.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Talent,
Second.
second by Dr. Malco. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, that's all I have.
And we have no public comments, so we'll move right into our board comments and consideration of future agenda items. Ms. Kelly.
I just want to congratulate Mr. Ledyard on getting through that lengthy set
In under 10 minutes.
Ms. Talent?
I would like to say thank you for the wonderful reports that were given on student progress and what that means as far as celebrating our students, the families, and also the teachers. It was really, this is wonderful. And look out, Munster.
Dr. Malco?
Really, I have nothing additional to add, but I was wondering, Mrs. Suze, if we could schedule that special meeting about the adjustments in our school board policy that we talked about in our executive session, so that way we can get that done and get moving forward.
Yes, I will speak with Dr. Varco this
Okay.
week, and we'll
Okay.
get that
That'd be
scheduled.
great. Thank you.
And, Mr. Ledger, thank you. I know that the end is in sight, so thank you for all your hard work. So with that, we'll go to Dr. Varco, board calendar or future activities.
Thank you. Our next meeting is 3 weeks away with an extra Monday in September, so we'll be here on Monday, October 7th. And everyone have a great evening.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All right, we are adjourned.